Welcome to the Good Pod, where today we're talking Elsbeth, Season 2, Episode 12, Foiled Again. I am one of your hosts, Jason Reed. With me, as always, a woman who's allergic to active imagination, Marissa Garza. Marissa, you good?
It's a plight. I'm good, but this is
Can
the
you
life
ever
I
truly
lead.
be good without being able to see what you're imagining?
I mean, I gotta tell you, I'm never afraid of the dark. That's for sure. So,
Because your
like,
mind's always in darkness. That makes a lot
I'm
of sense.
always in the dark. Yeah, yeah. Pretty much. I never understood when I was a kid that that's what people were. I was like, "What do you mean you're afraid of the dark? Aren't you in the dark all the time?"
My
But
life is
apparently
full of
not.
darkness.
Apparently not.
My life is always darkness. I'm trapped in darkness.
Hello,
Okay.
darkness, my old friend.
Hello, darkness, my
Um,
old friend. Here we are, Elsbeth's, over halfway point of the season for Season 2. We just found out this week Elsbeth has been renewed for Season 3. So we're going to get even more
yes.
Elsbeth goodness in the future. So listen, I kind of felt like it was ever really in question whether or not Elsbeth would get a Season 3, but it's good to have it confirmed.
Yeah, I feel well, first when you shared this news with me, you sent all of the CBS shows that were being announced, and I saw the Fire show, whatever, the Fire Watch,
Fire Country.
Yeah, Fire Country and Elsbeth, and I was like, is Elsbeth going to Fire Country for some sort of crossover? But I'm glad that the
Bro, can you imagine Elsbeth in Fire Country? She would have to just beat all those firemen off with a stick. Like, stay
right?
away from me, get away from me, firemen. I can't do this, all of you. I have Angus.
Angus is my fire person. Yeah, or Angus lights her fire. But yes, I am excited to hear that there's a season 3. My level of excitement will depend on how the season ends, I think. I think
Okay.
this season we've had a little bit of an up and down as we've talked about in our coverage, but I think if it ends on a strong note, I will be very excited about season 3. I mean, I'm always excited to see Elsbeth on my screen. I'm not going to ever be like, "Oh my gosh, I don't like seeing her." But if they can win me over by the end of season 2, I will be pumped for season 3.
Depends on how they land the plane with the Milton Crawford of it all, sounds like, for
Yes.
you, Marissa. So listen, we're excited. Elsbeth's coming back again. We're excited we get to do more podcasting about it. If you want to hear more of our podcast, you want to support us, if you want to let us know how you're enjoying things, I got a couple of free and easy ways for you to do that. No matter where you're watching, no matter where you're listening, there's a way to follow us. There's a way to rate us. So if you're listening on a podcatcher like an Apple Podcast, you can leave a written review. We really love those. You can also just rate us 5 stars if you want without leaving a written review. That's fine. You can also leave us 5 stars on Spotify. If you're watching on a YouTube, you can hit the thumbs up button down here somewhere where I'm pointing down here. You can also follow us on any of those platforms, and that really helps us boost our numbers, get into more people's eyes and ears. So we'd really appreciate it if you did that. If you just want to chop it up with us about the show in general, about The Good Wife, Elsbeth, our show, you can email us at thegoodpodfeedback@gmail.com to interact with us any way you want to. I mean, obviously don't send any hate mail, but we would love to hear from you, to hear what you feel about any of the shows.
Yeah, we would have liked to avoid the hate mail part, but I mean, you got feelings. Yeah, Jason, episode 12,
Episode 12.
foiled again. I just want to say,
go ahead.
Through the course of our coverage, I am going to try and prove that the Elsbeth writers are listening and know who I am.
Okay.
I'm giving you this heads up. Because there were one too many things about myself that I saw in this episode.
Oh no. Uh-oh. I can't wait to hear about that. Listen, in this episode and last episode, we've gotten 2/3 of the Ferris Bueller's Day Off trio.
We have.
Mia Sarah, come on down. I did a little research on Mia Sarah, who is the other person in the Ferris Bueller's Day Off, Sloane.
Yeah.
Not really active in the acting streets too much nowadays, but I mean, come on. We got to finish out the trio. It can't be a coincidence that Alan Ruck and, Matthew Broderick are in episodes back to back. Let's see what happens next episode. Come on. Finish it.
Yeah, I take a Jennifer Grey. I take a Charlie Sheen. But I do think it's a really fun little call out to Chicago from New York by putting Ferris Bueller people in there. Also, throughout my entire notes, he is referred to as Ferris and not Lawrence Gray, the character that Matthew Broderick is playing, because he will always be Ferris, to me at least.
If you had told me before we watched the episode that Matthew Broderick had already guest starred on Elsbeth, I would have believed you, because he just seems like the perfect fit for Elsbeth. It just seems like we go down this type of person throughout the Elsbeth episodes.
And I like said to myself, oh, Nathan Lane opened the season. This makes sense that Matthew Broderick would
Yeah.
be here too, because of their long stint as the producers on Broadway and this whole thing.
Mhm.
Like they're very, they're very Timon and Pumbaa.
Yeah, very.
But like wherever they are together. So I was happy to see Matthew Broderick in this episode. I thought it was also interesting that they put him as a like college admissions consultant coming, because at least for me, again, the first character I think of is Ferris Bueller, and I was like, Ferris became a college admissions consultant. Okay. But we see him and we're introduced to him as he's talking to a family and saying like, hey, this is what we can do for you. It's super expensive, but you don't want to end up in jail with a desperate housewife.
Ooh,
Call
Felicity
out
Huffman burn.
Felicity.
Felicity Huffman burn. Ouch. You think Felicity's a big Elsbeth fan? She was just threw her drink across her, like, that's it. I'm not watching this show anymore.
Well, she's never gonna guest star. I know that much.
I guess not. No. Do you think they had to choose between Felicity Huffman and Lori Loughlin? They were like, who should we burn? And who should we give this burn to?
Yeah, Desperate Housewives or Full House. You're like, you don't want to end up with a full house after college.
It's like, Lori Loughlin was definitely I guess the more hated of that duo that ended up like taking the fall for all that. So I mean, if anyone remembers that saga, that was truly a fascinating, time in culture of like, these people are paying for access to colleges. If anyone was actually surprised, it's like it just seems like the things that we take interest in all of a sudden as a society are just like, oh wow, now you're choosing to have a problem with people donating things or buying access to college. I think we all knew it was kind of happening.
Yeah, like that wasn't going on for years and years and years and years, decades, hundreds of years, centuries, ever since there was colleges. I think that was part of but this family is getting in early. Their little kid Andy is ready, playing in a sandbox, ready to be groomed to go to college, even though he has no idea what he wants to do or even if that's a plan for him. But his parents have decided.
The guy doesn't even know how to form words yet.
Right.
I don't know why I was surprised, but I thought it was a nice little twist. So they're like, he's just a kid, blah blah. And then we see the little baby in the sound box. Like, oh, that's actually pretty funny. That's actually kind of cool.
After celebrating with Andy that he's going to go to college, the little 2-year-old, 4-year-old, somewhere in there, there's an angry phone call for Ferris, aka Lawrence Gray, by a parent named Bobby, who said his son Bobby Jr. didn't get into Baden,
some fake university.
Yeah. And he's threatening. He's like, I'm going to tell everybody what you did. Like, this didn't work, blah, 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 blah. And it turns out that Baden is rejecting everyone from this outreach I put out, like from Ferris Bueller's consultancy agency.
Yeah, I for some reason, not for some reason, but because I'm a huge Survivor fan, I was like, I'll play Outreach. I was like, what?
I know. I was like, whoa. It's one of those outs, Mm-hmm. So Ferris takes it upon himself to go visit Baden because it turns out that the new admissions director is a former client of his that he helped get into school and do so many great things. His name is Ethan. But Ethan tells Lawrence right away, like, yo, this is not the life I wanted. I can't believe that you made me do this. And because of that, I'm going to make your life miserable and I'm going to just reject everyone that comes to me from you.
Is Ethan one of the least sympathetic victims we've had? How did you feel about that?
I didn't really have a lot of strong feelings. I just was like, oh, he's gonna die.
I mean, Ethan's like, you make me do this. You make me be highly successful. You make me do fencing. I don't like fencing, but I am the fencing coach for the school. So.
Yes.
So, Ethan, I feel like you have like a lot of misplaced anger towards Lawrence. I do feel like Lawrence is kind of like, I mean, I did a job. I was hired to do a job and I did it. I
Yep.
wasn't really like, listen, I wasn't really faulting Lawrence, and at this point, I was like, I mean, sounds like the guy was doing his job, and Ethan's like mad about it. I feel like Ethan was kind of really bitter.
Well, I think that's like a point that's made later on in the episode too, when they're reading through the rejection letters, and Elsbeth makes a comment. She's like, "Who knew that privileged people had it so hard?"
Yeah,
Like,
for real.
you know, I think that's definitely the point they're trying to make there. But yeah, Lawrence has it, or Ethan has it, like really against Lawrence at this point. He's going to not admit anyone who comes in. He's also saying that like fencing meant nothing to me, although I'm the fencing coach, and I'm going to be, I'm doing this to you to expose the corruption in this business. It has nothing to do with anything else. We also find out in this conversation that he has asthma from cats. So we're getting a lot of information that comes into play much
Yeah.
later. And Lawrence kind of gives Ethan a little like bet or a little wager at the end. And he's like, okay, fine. You never have to talk to me again if I win or if you win at fencing. But if I win at fencing, we'll figure something out because that's just how it is. Apparently, everybody knows how to fence. I don't know how to fence.
I mean, listen, fencing used to be so prevalent in 90s TV. Do you
It
remember that
was.
that era where
Yes.
fencing was just so popular for some reason? Every sitcom had to have a fencing episode where the people would put on the masks and they would do the little. I remember being like obsessed with the that the swords would make. I would like grab sticks outside, do the same thing. I was like, oh, that's actually pretty cool. It was so weird how there used to be this fascination with fencing in a certain era, but now you don't really hear about it anymore. So this episode really brought back some memories for me about like 90s, I don't know, culture, just not just this feeling of the 90s of when that was a thing.
Yeah, I also remember on the Real World when Jacinda in Real World London was a fencer, and I was like obsessed. I was like, oh
Yeah.
my gosh, someone actually does this. This is, and I will watch it on the Olympics. Like I like fence, like, but it's just not something that was accessible to me in my
Mhm.
life to ever explore, ever do, other than like playing with a stick in the backyard. Like there was
Yeah.
nothing.
So when they were like, "Oh, we're do fencing," I was like, "Okay, cool,
Yeah.
interesting." Like, great thing to take a look at nowadays in 2025.
Yeah, so they fence for it, and then we also learn that Lawrence has a cat. We get kind of like, did you ever watch Inspector Gadget?
Of course, like what's the guy's name? Claw. He's like,
Claude. Claude.
fantastic.
Yes,
We never see
yes.
Claw. Do we like? I want to inspect the Inspector Gets TV show. Did we ever see Claw's face? Like
I
in the
don't think so.
series finale, cartoons like that usually don't get a series finale. But did we ever actually see Claw's face? It's almost like, I don't know
No.
if you ever watched the Muppet Babies, but you'd only
Yes.
see Nanny's
Feet.
legs. Yeah, you only see her
Yeah.
legs and feet. You never see actually who it was. I would be willing to. I'd be wondering if we ever saw Claw's face. Inspector Gadget fan boys and girls, hit me up and let me know. Did we ever see who Claw really was? I don't think we did. But that was one of the fascinating parts of that show because he had, I think that's part of what like Doctor Evil
Yes.
from Austin Powers
Austin
was
Powers.
modeled after. It was just like, oh,
Yes.
I have a furry cat. You wouldn't think someone as villainous as me would have a furry little cat.
Well, and like the whole just petting, like
Yeah,
petting him
I feel like,
while not seeing his face.
yeah, I feel like Lawrence's plan came together very fast. I think he saw that, thought he saw that Ethan was allergic to cats. He's like, oh, I got an idea, fencing, and I'll do what I do to him. That I thought it came together very, very fast.
Yeah, he had thought about this a little bit, I think, before he went to go visit Ethan.
But I feel like he only learned
All
that Ethan was allergic in that meeting.
you think so?
Maybe because we saw Quad Cat come in and we saw Ethan sneeze, and
Yeah, yeah,
at that
yeah.
moment he thought he got that idea that Ethan was allergic. Was like, ooh, interesting. Let me. Hey, you want a fence? Like it's if Lawrence is like getting this plan together in his mind of like, I'm gonna rub this cat toy in his fencing mask and make him choke and make him die. But like most of our murderers, I think Lawrence, more than a lot of our murderers, has like suffered from some very bad luck in this murder. We'll talk
Yeah.
about it, but like I feel like the impetus of the idea was smart, was interesting, but the execution maybe not so much.
Well, speaking of the execution, it's go time. This is time where Lawrence is going to make his move. He decides his alibi is going to be giving an LSAT practice test to a student on campus, but also by giving the guy earplugs so that he doesn't hear anything. But he establishes that he is giving this practice test, and he sits down for like 2 seconds and then runs out.
Which is, I don't think, a very good idea in practice. In theory, yes. In practice, no. There's a number of things that could happen with this kid taking this practice test to make him turn around and ask a question or do anything else. He just, like, Lawrence just thought this kid's going to be laser focused for an hour and 10 minutes in his own little world. He's never going to look back for no reason. He's not going to ever have to use the bathroom. He's not going to ever have to do anything else. He's just not going to ever turn his head and look back at me.
Well, we will get into this a little later because it has to do with why they're stalking me. But when you take an LSAT practice test, you're also supposed to use the conditions that you're gonna take the actual test in. So I don't know if earplugs are allowed at a testing center. So I mean, or even when you go to the bathroom, you're not supposed to go to the bathroom in the middle of a practice test. You're supposed to go at the break after a certain section. Like, you're supposed to practice in the rhythm of the practice test, because that's half of the anxiety is the format of being in a room with a bunch of people taking this test. So I gotta say, Lawrence did not provide a great testing environment for this kid.
Well, I think that they were saying that, the kid was saying something about his ADHD and he couldn't focus, blah blah. I don't. Do they make accommodations like that in like LSAT tests?
Sometimes, yeah.
So I think probably it's something like that. Maybe they will give him the capacity to put in earplugs in his actual test to kind of focus himself for people that have trouble focusing because of certain conditions. So I don't know, but I just thought it was really weird to hinge this whole plan on this kid will never turn his head and look at me for any reason.
Yeah. It was very locked in. He was very focused. Lawrence skedaddles over to the fencing gym where he's going to put something in Ethan's mask helmet thing before starting the match. Ethan is like riding high. He's killing it. He's fencing, whatever you say in fencing.
He is fencing. I was saying, is touche a fencing thing? Touche? No, that's not
toupe. There's like toupee. There is or an epee. Maybe it's epee.
Epee, or like on guard. That's a fencing thing, right? Like on guard.
Yeah.
These days, I'm actually gonna learn something about fencing. They had like tethers on their selves. What is that for?
Okay, so when you're this is from my watching of the Olympics.
Fence nerd, here we go. Fence nerd, activate.
The outfit that you wear, the uniform that you wear, has computer sensors in it. Has sensors in it, and it's tied to the thing. So when someone hits you, that's how the points happen.
We don't have wireless technology for that. We have to have to be plugged into something.
Yeah, wow. I mean, I think there is wireless technology now, in the most recent Olympics. I think there was, but you can't cross a certain line. You can't cross the line or too far past the line or something like that. I don't know all the rules, but I do know that has to do with scoring. That's why, and scoring came into play.
Yeah.
In this murder investigation as well.
Come on, get into the 21st century fencing. Let's
it's a gym. It's
unplugged.
But they are really fancy, so they should have been able to upgrade their equipment for sure. It doesn't take long for Ethan to start wheezing in the situation, and he's down for the count. He asks Lawrence, help. His response was, "I regret to inform you that your application for help has been rejected." Only Matthew Broderick could, one, deliver that like that, and two, make me think of Baymax. I was this is a very.
Do you ever watch that little thing on Big Hero 6? Yeah.
Yes.
That's funny. And also when Lawrence was helping Ethan with his mask, he zip tied the mask on the back of him so he could not get the mask. Wow, that's real.
Also, can't Ethan feel that? Wouldn't he know? Or at least hear the zip tie? I have no idea.
I don't know. Ethan was so juiced up to fence this guy to make him, because the bet was if I win, if Lawrence wins, Ethan has to start letting his people in, and if Ethan
Yeah.
wins. Lawrence cannot.
He never has to talk to him again.
Right, something like that. But yeah, I mean, this was sinister, man. Like, Ethan's. I didn't see what Lawrence was doing at first when he's putting something in the mask, and I guess we get all that info later. But that was really crazy. And like Lawrence is putting his foot on Ethan's chest to like help him die faster. I was like, wow, this guy is real bad.
Yeah, that's like I have to assume not a great way to go. Like you're basically like suffocating.
Yeah,
like
you're drowning almost.
Yeah. Before Lawrence leaves the gym, he does sprinkle some stuff by the window, which we will find out about later. It's time for our heroes to arrive, and Detective Third Watch is back on the case.
Yeah.
Which was great. And there's a lot of questions here about what's going on. Like, was Ethan practicing by himself? He apparently has asthma. There was a light blue thread in his mask. We learn Elsbeth is also allergic to cats. We learned there was a cat by the body when the body was found. Elsbeth is also questioning why there are points on the board. Like, if there's points on the board, was someone else there? Like, what's going on? And at the end of this, we do see Lawrence call Bobby Sr., who had called and complained earlier, saying, like, hey, I think it's in the bag now. I think I took care of this for you.
Yeah, and Elsbeth, when she comes in, she is immediately on her stuff. She's immediately on her bag. She's like, she calls out the tether. She calls out the thread. She sees the stuff by the window. She's like really on it immediately.
Yes. Back at the station, they're talking about how this is a significant event for rich kids. Basically, like, oh my gosh, resources for rich kids have been cut off at the knees because of the situation. They also do talk about how the stuff that was sprinkled by the windowsill is catnip. And I do like Wagner's response to this. Like, because they were like, is someone trying to lure cats to the gym? And Wagner's like, does anyone use a gun anymore? Like, why are we going in this like contrived way with all of these crimes? I thought it was pretty funny.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, Wagner is a very no nonsense. Like, why can't we use guns? Like, why can't we just kill people the old fashioned way?
Like, it was so much easier back in my day. We learned that Cat Dander was in the helmet, and we also, Kaya introduces us to Quad Cat, the campus cat, with their own Instagram account. So there is this whole like getting cats to the gym thing seems to be the lead that they're following at the moment. In the middle of this conversation, Kaya does like tell everyone that she's completed the course and got the credits she needed. We never saw anything about this,
mad.
Jason.
I'm so mad about this. First of all, we have an episode set in a college. This would have been a perfect moment for Kaya to have a college experience episode. But now she's like, oh, guess what, everyone? My college stuff is done. There was never any actual drama associated with me having to go back to school. That whole storyline was for nothing.
Yeah, I mean, other than, I guess, to get Lieutenant Stevens to be like, sorry about that.
Yeah, it was just like, it really feels like sometimes this show picks up threads like, ooh, look at this nice, tasty storyline, this nice, tasty plot we got for you. And it's just like, yeah, never mind. It wasn't important.
Yeah. Well, speaking of that, Elsbeth is like, hey, this is so great, Kaya. Let me throw you a dinner at my house. I promise, no duck like last time. Great callback. But then she says, it'll help me get over the fact that Angus is gone. Angus is gone, Jason. Just boop.
Angus,
gone.
He came, he gave her that haggis, if you know what I mean. And then he left. Came, gone, over.
In more ways than once.
You said it, not me.
Marissa, you said it.
Mind is in the gutter, let me tell you.
Oh boy. But she does say, like, she holds out hope. She's like, we will meet again when we need to. And then
maybe
a musical reference of,
who knows?
Yeah.
I think the season finale could end in like, wow, we've had a crazy year, huh? You know what? I think I'm gonna go to Scotland
musical
for a while. I'm gonna go hang out
like,
with Angus.
They're gonna have a musical episode. Like, I'm like, oh.
Why did you think they're gonna have a musical episode? So Angus can come in.
Yeah, like, well, and Lieutenant Stevens references Brigadoon, which is a musical about lovers who separate and then come back together. So,
see, I didn't even know that. I was like, oh yeah, Brigadoon, right? I was not knowing what Brigadoon was. I was like, yeah, exactly, Brigadoon. Like when he said that, I was like, Just assume that is relevant. I'll assume that is a relevant thing they said. But yeah, I can see the end of the season. And I was looking like, oh, I think I'm gonna go to get some R&R in Scotland. And then
Yeah.
season 3 premieres like, oh, Scotland was great. Me and Angus had a great time.
Ugh. We want to see some of this stuff,
Yeah, for
writers.
sure.
We want to see some of it. She does mention to Kaya, you can bring your tenant. He's my tenant. Like you can bring my tenant. Like
Mhm.
I'll bring my tenant.
Yeah,
There's some stuff happening. I think they had some that ice cream date. I think went pretty well.
maybe let us something more than ice cream. Who knows?
Who? No, we'll never know because they'll never tell us. We also see that Teddy has arrived. Teddy is back. We talked about this last episode, how it would be so great if Teddy is back. Here he is. He's here to help Roy move into his new apartment. So he's also invited to dinner and also invited Roy to dinner. So
Yeah,
big
that'll be
dinner
fun.
ahead.
I do like how before Wagner like dismisses everybody, all right, we gotta go find out more about this pussycat.
Yeah.
Wagner.
Well, and I like that he said, I can't believe I'm going to say this.
Yeah.
Like,
Go find out about that pussycat.
that was good. That was a good one. Over at Baden, there's this big basket waiting in Ethan's office. It was from Lawrence. Basically, again, like a bribe. It was mentioned before when Lawrence went to go visit Ethan, and Ethan's like, I'm not opening it. They do meet the owner of the Quad Cat Instagram account and named Quad Cat not because of the quad like on a college campus, but because Quad Cat has 4 like toes on their paw in the front, which apparently like cats have 5 in the front. I did not know this. I, much like Detective Third Watch, thought that this was very interesting.
Very interesting. So many
I
things
thought
with
it was very
Elsbeth
interesting.
and The Good Wife are interesting. Yeah, but I don't know. I've never counted the paws on a cat. I have had a cat before in my life. Don't currently, but have had it before. And you always play with their paws. You mess with the paws.
Yeah.
You never really count them. I never thought about the fact that cats would have 5 in the front and 4 in the back. I've never that was a fact to me that was interesting. Like Donnelly says,
Right?
very
It
interesting.
was. Yeah. Yeah. It's just like, that's actually very interesting.
Also,
And we
Quad
all,
Cat had an actual owner. I just assumed that Quad Cat was a stray cat. Like, how are you just gonna let your cat roam around a university campus, mess with people? I was like, that's weird.
well, some cats are outdoor cats, I guess. I don't know. I've never had a cat, but
I don't think you
they
bring your
go and they
outdoor
come
cat to
back.
college with you. Like, keep your outdoor cat at your house.
We also learned from Quad Cat's owner that Quad Cat is hypoallergenic. So this whole like thing
Mm.
that it was Quad Cat that killed Ethan, not looking so great right
See,
now.
that's what I'm talking about. The bad luck that Lawrence had that this cat happens to be hypoallergenic. Like, damn, that really just throws the whole theory in the garbage, or not even murder, just the fact that Ethan was killed by his allergies in the it throws that away pretty much, that he just so
Yes.
happened to get mixed up with this cat and die from just getting from the exposure to the cat.
Yes.
Throws it away.
Agreed.
Now it's murder. It's not an accident. Now it's murder.
Now it's murder. So this leads Detective Third Watch and Kaya to interview a bunch of disgruntled people who didn't get into college or didn't get the outcome they were looking for from working with Lawrence. And Elsbeth decides to go visit Lawrence at work. This is where we find out that he helped Ethan find fencing, and fencing really changed his life. Ethan or Elsbeth starts wondering, like, did I do well by Teddy? Randomly
So
again,
random. Yeah.
like, and Elsbeth is letting Lawrence know she knows some things, right? Like, she's like, hey, so there were only the paw prints we found had only 4 toes, like Quad Cat. Like, that's
So
interesting,
it
isn't
only
it?
could have been Quad Cat that was there, and Quad Cat is hyperallergenic. So that's interesting. That's
That's
weird, right?
well, right. And Elsbeth goes like and sneezes by Lawrence, so we learn that she's allergic to cats, so there's cat dander somewhere. And yeah, go ahead.
Ferris, I have to know what Ferris is thinking at this moment, because Elspeth goes over, she sneezes next to Ferris, aka Lawrence, and she goes, "Oh my gosh, like you must have a cat." And Lawrence is like, "No, my cat's dead."
I know.
Then how would she be sneezing? And then she goes, "Maybe you had some dander from when he was alive." He's like, "No, don't think so." Lawrence, come on, you gotta be smarter than that.
Lawrence is not good on his feet, okay? Like Lawrence
Yeah,
is a strategy type person. He is not a in the moment type of thinker. He is definitely
like Lawrence,
not that guy.
it's okay if you have a cat. That does not automatically tie you to the murder. Admit you have a cat. Admit that you have cat hair on your stuff. As owners of cats know, we live with cat hair on our clothing. So it's fine for you to be like, oh, no, I don't have a cat when you have a live cat right now. It's going to come back to bite you, Lawrence. Don't do this. I know he doesn't know Elsbeth, but that is catnip to Elsbeth. A lie like that, a obvious lie, is catnip to
Yes.
Elsbeth. She's like, oh,
Yes.
she's like, ooh, I smell murder. I smell guilt on you, Lawrence, by lying to me about you obviously have a cat because you have current cat hair on you. Come on, man, you done messed up. You done messed up, Lawrence. You messed up.
Well, and like at that point, I'm like, oh, he is dead. Like, oh, okay. Like the cat is dead. But then like the next scene we
We
see,
still
he's
have
like,
a
he
cat.
goes home and he has to tell the cat that the cat is to go. And I'm like, what? Poor
Time,
Veritas.
time to
Poor
go,
Veritas.
time to go, Veritas. Matthew Broderick's thing, his cadence and his way of speaking is so interesting. It's like,
Oh,
well, Veritas, time for you to go.
he's very distinctive. He has a
Yeah.
very like, you know, it's him.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So after he goes home to tell Veritas he has to go, he says has to go. He doesn't say where we're going, but he
Yeah.
says has to go.
I kind of
Elsbeth,
clocked. I kind of clocked what would be happening from now.
yeah.
I didn't think that Lawrence would become a cat murderer. Let's just put it that way.
I know. I was like, two murders?
Yeah.
Peticide? Like, what is happening?
And honestly, I would have been more mad at Lawrence if he had killed Veritas than the fact he
Yes.
killed Ethan.
Yes. Agreed. Agreed. Elsbeth goes to visit Lawrence while Lawrence is like paying his respects to Ethan in the fencing gym.
Never
And
go to the scene of the crime. Never go to the scene of the crime. All the Elsbeth murderers do this. Don't go to the scene of the crime. Don't do it.
agreed. Agreed. Elsbeth is on her game though. She is like, she's playing all of the Elsbeth, she's doing the Elsbeth playbook. I'm going to ask this guy for consultation for her future grandchildren that she doesn't have yet, but she thinks are going to happen because Teddy and Roy are serious enough to at least come to dinner. She's referencing herself as a consultant and saying, hey, they listen to me more and more. And Lawrence kind of like buys it. He's like, oh, okay, well, I guess we can work together.
This show, they're like, all right, we get it. In the first season, we made a mistake by calling her decree lawyer. We should just call her consultant from jump. I feel like we want it. The show's like, we want to get you in the mindset of consultant. So the next like 4 to 5 episodes, we're going to keep calling her consultant until you get it. So funny. They're like correcting themselves. Like, yeah, she's a consultant. We got it. We should have named her consultant from episode 1.
Lawrence starts questioning Elsbeth, like, well, okay, well, why do you think Teddy failed to launch? And Elsbeth's like, what do you mean failed to launch? He works at a nonprofit. He went to U of I, okay, the University of Illinois, the same place that I went, which is another reason why I think they know me. And I got to say, when he said that this is not an Ivy League, I will tell you, Mr. Matthew Broderick, the University of Illinois is the Ivy League of the Midwest. I don't care about Iowa. I don't care about it. I mean, I like people at Iowa. Like they're all great schools, but I'm saying the University of Illinois, don't tarnish that.
It makes so much sense why you are wearing a Illinois sweatshirt. For those not watching, Marissa is wearing a Illinois sweatshirt at the moment.
Yeah, I was like, ooh, step 1. Okay, so that's just clue number 1, Jason. That's just clue number 1. University of
the
Illinois.
other clue is that Lawrence turned to the camera and winked and said, "That one's for you, Marissa."
Yeah, I know. I don't mean to make it all about me, but like when these things happen, like what can you do?
Hey, they named someone Reed on one of the other episodes.
Yes,
so they know us. Obviously,
so they know us. They know us.
Out.
Yes, Lawrence.
It makes it even more mysterious. Well, I can't get a text back, Kings. I keep texting you.
Yeah,
come on the show. Come on, Kings.
Like
we
if
know
you
know us.
Like shout us out. Come talk to us.
Yeah, for real. Come on, Kings. Let's go. I know you're listening. We're the only show talking about your show. I know you're listening.
Elsbeth or Lawrence's whole thesis now with working with college students is like well-rounded doesn't work anymore. You have to be like very, very specific. And he has like throughout the course of this episode, like said some very specific things that make people stand out, which was very interesting.
I like how Elsbeth goes, yeah, Teddy studied philosophy, and Laura's like, oh, they still do that? Interesting.
Yeah. So she's questioning, like, did you fence with Ethan? And of course, Lawrence is like, how do you think you did this? I've changed many lives with fencing. He also tells Elsbeth, like, hey, the person that I was given the practice test to earlier will confirm that I was there. So like, I'm out. I'm in the clear. I'm in the clear. But then she asks, like, do you ever feel bad for poor kids that don't have all this stuff? And he's like, I'm not competing with them. I'm competing with other rich kids, which is true,
Right,
like, which
true.
is fair.
Yeah, I was
But I
feeling
would
that.
like it if he also said, which is why I have a scholarship fund, or which is why I do things to like help even the playing field. But he does not.
No.
He just stays in his lane.
He's like, F them poor kids. I don't care about them.
Yeah. Elsbeth and Lawrence fence at this point. Elsbeth takes note that the mask is easy to take on and off. So she's like, if I was, having an asthma attack, why wouldn't I be able to take this mask off? Huh, that's interesting. Also, look over here. There's some points on the scoreboard. There were points on the scoreboard when we got here. Interesting, interesting. Also, you didn't say you had a kid. And we learn that he does have a kid. Her name is Mandy. She's taking a gap year. And this is when Elsbeth really goes in for the kill and says, it wouldn't look too good if people found out that your kid failed to launch. Wham!
Hey.
And he ends up
Oh.
twisting his ankle. And she has a quick little comeback of like, I thought I found your Achilles heel. I liked this scene. It was pretty fun.
I thought the twisted ankle would come more into play later down the line, but they really didn't.
No, it was just there. So it is time for the dinner. It's time for Kaya's congratulations dinner. And Lieutenant Stevens is very worried that Elsbeth injured this guy's ankle. And so he's like, hey, you might want to file a report on this. Very, very true to character. Also, Detective Third Watch is telling Kaya and Cameron, like, hey, think about stuff before having kids. And they're like, oh yeah, no, that's not us. We're not doing that.
Us kids? What? We just live in the same domicile. We just live in the same house. What are you talking about? It just makes me like, we haven't been confirmed that anything has happened with them yet, but it just makes me think that something is happening. Like, because the way they're acting towards each other is not just like a, oh, that's silly. It's like, oh, what do you mean? We haven't done anything. I don't know what you're talking about. But yeah, that was okay. I'm like, all right, y'all are acting weird.
Yes, agreed. Teddy arrives and he's like, Roy's stuck at work. He's going to come later. But then he spots clue number 2, Jason. Clue number 2. The LSAT practice test book by Kaplan. Now, where did I work from 2008 to 2011? I worked at a Kaplan testing center. And so this is clue number 2. I was just like, oh my gosh, what is going on? And I had to like pause it. I was like, is that a Kaplan book? The only other time a Kaplan book that I have seen in a TV show was in the episode of The Office where Michael goes to speak, like, I forgot his name, but there's a Kaplan GMAT book in someone's car. And I was like, oh my gosh, Kaplan. It was a big deal when we were at Kaplan that there was like a whole thing that this book was in a TV show. So I hope the LSAT team at Kaplan got a little joy out of seeing their book in this TV show.
Not only do the Kings know who you are, but they somehow have access to your resume. Mm-hmm. Wow. Mm-hmm.
Kings. I mean, I'm on LinkedIn. I found my LinkedIn. Probably.
Okay.
Probably.
Okay.
Probably.
So they did enough research into you to know like Marissa's gonna freak out when we put a Kaplan book in this episode. Oh my gosh.
Also, like, just connect. Like, reach out. It's okay. Yeah. You don't have to stalk me. You can just say hi. Yeah. So I was a little excited about that. Anyway, Wagner mentions at this dinner that Claudia couldn't make it because she has a women's political thing, Jason.
I'm like, y'all are dropping too many breadcrumbs here. He didn't need to mention this stuff. And I was like, it just all sounds fishy. Maybe Claudia does not want to show up to Elsbeth's house because she knows Elsbeth is good at clocking people that are bad. So maybe she didn't want to be in front of Elsbeth. So Elsbeth be like, you're doing weird stuff. Let me get in more into your face. Weird.
Well, and especially because like the look that we saw from Claudia last episode, like I don't know if Claudia could keep herself in check in front of Elsbeth, like in front of anyone, let alone Elsbeth.
it's reignited my Claudia is no good theory, and I will not back down. I don't
Yeah.
care if it takes us to season 3. Claudia's up to something. I just know it. I feel it in my bones.
And then Elsbeth, I don't know why she decided to open this conversation at this dinner party in celebration of Kaya and her achievements, but she asks Teddy, "Do you think I pushed you hard enough?
Like,
I could
this
have
is
made you
not
pointier." Like,
not the
what? And
time or
Teddy's
the
like,
place.
"For that, you would have had to be around more." And I was like,
Ooh,
"Ooh, Teddy,
ouch.
Teddy."
Burn, burn,
I
burn.
I did like the conversation that came out of this about how like millennials want more work-life balance and aren't afraid of losing their jobs. I feel like that is something I at least faced. This is not a clue. This is not a clue. But I faced like with my own parents of like do everything right so that they can't like fire you or do anything, but in the end like the system is not great. Like take care of yourself and
Mhm.
survive. Wagner decides to butt his little self into this conversation and says, "Be nice to your mom. She doesn't want you to lose that job. She knows how hard it was to get."
Whether the vibe it was giving was like stepfather vibes. Like, hey,
Yes.
don't talk to your mama like that.
Yeah. I was like, where are you?
So
What?
why you butting in Wagner?
What?
Wagner will later say, I'm sorry, it was the wine. The wine got to me. But yeah, like you don't know how hard it was for your mama to get that job. I had like, wait a minute, for my mom to get me the job? What do you mean? What are you talking about?
Right. Yeah. And like, this is the first time that
Yeah.
Teddy is hearing about this again in front of all of these people that are at Elsbeth's house to celebrate Kaya.
Yeah.
Very weird.
And in the moment, I had even forgotten that Wagner had got Teddy his job. I was like, oh yeah, oh snap, that's rough because Wagner will go on to admit that he got Teddy this job. He says,
Yeah.
to be quite honest, I was carrying a favor. Elsbeth thought I was a criminal. I wanted to get her off my back. It still doesn't make much sense to me, but that's what happened. Because when that happened, I was like, why? If Wagner's not a criminal, why is he trying to bribe Elsbeth into not looking into him? That was
Yeah.
weird. And like
Yeah.
this still doesn't make much sense to me to this day. But yeah, I forgot that was a shoe that was even available to drop. But when it dropped, I was like, oh, this is shady. I did not know you were going to go
Yeah.
this route, Kings. Good job.
And I have to give Teddy props for saying, "I'm not going to be here for this. Peace out.
Yeah.
Bye." Like, I can't. I thought I was doing well on my own, and you're telling me that not only was my mom involved, but my mom's boss was involved, who like carries so much clout in the city. Like, what? So he says, "Peace out." Elsbeth feels bad, but then she says, like, sometimes they think I did everything wrong, and Detective Third Watch says that's called being a good mother. Otherwise, you wouldn't care. So, reminding Elsbeth that like she cares. Mandy, the daughter, has returned from her 19 months of finding herself. She says, "I'm tired of finding myself.
Mm-hmm.
I am back." And she's looking for her cat. And then we see not only did this man tell his cat he has to go, but he got like a little urn memorial box type thing to really sell this to his daughter or whoever was in the house.
Mm-hmm. He's like, "Yep, I'm gonna." He had like a day to get this whole memorial box
Yeah.
together. He got that with the quickness. So yeah, it's like, "Oh, I'm sorry, sweetie, Veritas is dead." And I don't know, Mandy to me was she was berating her father. I'm like, do you think he literally murdered your cat? Like, what? I mean, cats die, things happen. Like, what did you want him to do? She's like, "You're the worst dad ever." I'm like, I mean, lady, pets die. I don't think like he didn't like it's not as if he told you he like literally murdered your cat. I was weird. I thought her reaction was weird.
She did say, I forgot what she said. Hold on. She or he did say to her, like, "I didn't want to interrupt your creative and hiking
Yeah.
expedition," like type of thing to say, like, because she was like, why didn't you call me? It's like, well, you were on your like quest to find yourself. Meanwhile, the day after that, Elsbeth comes by to drop off a gift basket for Lawrence. Mandy sees her downstairs and invites her upstairs, to which Elsbeth cannot like say no to. I love whenever Elsbeth is in this really curious conversation mode where she's really just like asking a bunch of questions and really befriending this person while also having her own motive behind the conversation. She's learning a lot. She's learning a lot about Mandy. She's learning that Veritas is dead. Like this was
Like
also
recently.
this was new. Yeah, this was new information to Elsbeth in terms of the timing. And we also learn, or Elsbeth also learns that Lawrence loved the cat more than Mandy did. And she returns the handkerchief because Lawrence comes in. It's like, what are you doing here? Why are you here? She returns the handkerchief that she had sneezed in prior to that. And we learn it did not match the mystery fiber. So Lawrence is thinking he's in the clear.
I definitely thought I know it would have been too easy, but I definitely did at the time where Elsbeth took his handkerchief that would match the thread. I was like, oh my gosh, he's just giving her
It's blue.
he's giving her the evidence. But and then because Lawrence takes a hanky back, it's like, oh, didn't match the mystery fiber, did it? I was like, oh, so Lawrence has clocked that he is a suspect and he sees that Elsbeth is investigating him. He's not that much of a dummy. He does know that he's being looked at, and more reason why he like actually gave her the hanky of like, this will throw him off a track. I'm sure they think this is something, but it's not something. So I thought that was very interesting
Yep.
too. And for like you said, for Elsbeth to go to Mandy but start gabbing with Mandy, that also was very unlucky for Lawrence. The fact that Mandy and Elsbeth just happened to cross paths at the time. It's not like Elsbeth knew that Mandy was coming back, but that was
Yeah.
also very unlucky for Lawrence.
They're back at the station. Elsbeth is reading all of the rejected essays, to which I present clue number 3.
Play French horn, didn't you?
I did. I did play the French horn.
You, Marissa, if someone said, guess the instrument that Marissa played in high school, college, or whatever, I definitely would have said French horn.
You want to know why? You want to know why I picked the French horn? Let me tell you.
Because all
First, they
nerds play
started me
French horn.
on. No. Well, I mean, we are pretty great. I didn't play an instrument in high school. And so I was just going through the brass family, and I started on tuba, and then I went to baritone, and then I went to trombone. I kind of like trombone, but then I picked up the French horn, and I was like, wait a minute. This is the Star Wars instrument. This is the instrument that makes the greatest Star Wars music. I must play the French horn. And so I did. And then also my sister did. So
this was in, when was this? This was in college or what?
In high school. Like I wanted to play. I did play in high school. I also played in college, but not like in the marching band or anything like that. I still have my French horn. It's over.
You were in marching band, weren't you?
I was in high school. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So nerdy.
Does this explain so much?
You have like pictures from your high school marching band? I would see that. Oh my god, I need to see those. The French horn.
Maybe I'll fence you for it.
The French horn's in the corner. I need to hear some French horn from you at some point.
Maybe for your birthday.
Maybe.
I can play Happy Birthday. That much I can do.
Marissa, you are just not beating the nerd allegations ever. Like
I know, I'm owning it. I'm stepping into my power as a nerd. I think that again, this is clue number 3. Okay, yeah. Clue number 3.
This is the Marissa Garza episode. This is it.
Thank you. I thought I could convince you, and I am glad to have achieved my goal.
When are we going to go into like the comic book episode? There needs to be an episode where we go to like Comic-Con or something.
Yes.
That's my episode.
That's going to be yours.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, let's do that one.
For sure. I'm waiting for it. Like if the next episode is that, then I mean that's like they're just saying we're listening, but they don't. They're like we're very approachable. Like you can just like talk to us.
I feel when this comes out later today, they're going to be like, all right, guys, Comic-Con episode. We got to shoot this within 5 days. Let's go.
Anyway, like during this whole conversation about the French horn, Kaya is also reading these letters with Elsbeth, and she says like maybe they just need like a goal that's their own and not like something that their parents are prescribing for them. Very astute of Kaya. Teddy stops by to apologize because Roy said, hey, you need to apologize to your mom because you're very lucky to have a mom that cares. And not only does he stop by to apologize, he stops by and tells Elsbeth that Roy is in the interrogation room.
Dun, dun, dun. fun.
Very on point, like a little too on point for my
If
liking, but
I have to go again. I'm always thinking about the perspective of the other people that work in this precinct. And the fact that Elsbeth is butting
yeah,
around with her son's boyfriend in the interrogation room, like, miss, this is a working police precinct, not your little office where you can do all your little fun stuff like interrogate your son's boyfriend in the interrogation room. This is a legitimate business. Do not use this for your fun stuff. I would have been so annoyed if I had worked with it. Like, oh, Elvis over
I
there palling around the interrogation room as if this is just some fun place to be.
I kind of wanted like someone to interrupt them, but they were there for 83 minutes.
Yeah, someone to
That's
actually come
almost an hour and a half.
come in with a real criminal that needs to be interrogated. Like, oh, Elsbeth's
Yeah.
using this room for fun. Let's go. We
Yeah.
can't interrupt Elsbeth for
Also,
fun.
like if I were, I mean, I this is an invasion of privacy, but maybe after like the 45-minute mark, I would have gone into that little room where you can see and hear what's going on and maybe pounded on the wall and be like, "Ma, let's go." Like time's a ticking.
Yeah,
Or I'm going to listen to everything you guys talk about from over here. Like,
yeah, fun
or
that.
Roy, like wrap it up.
Or when Roy starts getting a
But
little too personal, he knocks something like, "Hey, no, don't go into that."
But during this, while Teddy's outside, Kaya ends up telling Teddy about Angus. So Teddy is very happy for Elsbeth in that. And then he also asks, was he a fireman?
Yeah.
which which was funny. Elsbeth does get to crack the case though throughout this entire conversation with Roy, because Roy says my parents never like conflict. They even told me my dog went to go live on a farm. And this is like, I don't know why this conversation needed to happen for this realization to happen, but this is what did it.
The Eureka
He's
moment.
like, yeah, she's like, oh, you just solved a case. So Elsbeth goes to Ferris's office and like lets him know, like, hey, we're not moving forward with the consulting. I'm so sorry. So sorry to tell you. And guess what? My son ended up just fine. And it's actually your daughter that helped me solve this murder. And he's like, oh wow, that's so exciting. Oh, that's so great. And then she goes into the whole thing saying that like obviously Ethan was ruining your business. You took an LSAT practice. I took it like she's like, I took an LSAT practice test to prove how much time there you could commit this murder in.
I'm glad they spared us from that like scene of Elsbeth practicing the LSAT test. Like they mentioned it at Kaya's dinner why Elsbeth has the
Yes.
LSAT practice test. I'm glad they spared us from that. That would have been boring scene.
But primo product placement for the Kaplan team. Mandy walks in with Veritas because they get to the point where it's like, oh, you just said that Veritas went away. And Mandy's like, yeah, went to 17 different shelters and found one that was dropped off by a guy that looked like you. And it had, or Veritas had a blue cashmere mouse that cost $80. And this was the fiber that was in Ethan's mask. I did like the phrase "framing another cat is pretty low, even for you." I thought that was funny, and even now, Lawrence is really digging in his heels. He's like, "I've never seen that cat in my life. Like, I don't know who that is." And I was just like, "Cool. Like, we can go check the box of ashes that you have and see that it's sand from the sandbox. Like,
Mm-hmm.
we're getting here." And then again, the point of she needed a goal that didn't come from you. Like she did great. She was able to succeed in this because it was hers. And I like at the end how Mandy tells her dad, actually, you going to jail is going to be great for my college essay. I'm going to get in everywhere. It's so fantastic.
That was so cruel. Like like she almost had no feeling toward her dad going to jail or committing a murder. She's like, this is great for me. Like, oh my goodness.
Well,
You really
she
hate your
like
dad.
didn't. Yeah. Well, she said worst dad ever. So there must have been like a bunch of history we didn't see
Maybe.
before. The time has come for Teddy to leave, and Teddy does let Elsbeth know that Roy loves her, which was great. He also randomly says, I heard from people in Chicago who know these things. First of all, why would Teddy get this information before Elsbeth? Elsbeth has connections in Chicago of people who would know these things also, but it was Teddy who had to tell Elsbeth that Mark Van Ness is being taken to the cleaners in his divorce and True Rose is coming out on top. Like,
You would you
I
would
don't
think
know.
that Elsbeth would be invested enough to know this information, to maybe that it would have been in the news. She may have had some Google alerts from Mark Van Ness, but no, Teddy is the one that had to break it to her that that yet the resolution to all this comes in a one sentence thing from Teddy of like, hey, by the way, because
Yeah.
exposition, because the writers did not finish the storyline properly, I just needed to let you know that Mark Van Ness is getting his just desserts. He's losing a lot of money.
Yeah.
So you did a great thing, Elsbeth. Story over. Yay.
Done.
Check.
Hi. Ay. Yeah, again, things we wish we could have seen a little bit more of
Yeah.
is that. And so she's like, oh, I'm so glad I don't have to worry about going in cars anymore. I'm like, oh my God, she's going to get picked up by a car.
Yep.
Like,
Cue black car.
immediately. Immediately. But before leaving, Teddy does take the LSAT book, doesn't want Elsbeth to get too excited that he might be taking the LSAT to become a lawyer, but he does at least take the book. Cut to Elsbeth and Gonzo going for a walk, and what shows up, Jason?
A black car.
Oh my gosh! And who's in the black car? It's Milton Crawford. Judge Milton Crawford. And I just love, like, I know that Michael Edelstein is a really good actor, but he
Emerson.
is a really good actor. Emerson. Yes, sorry. Emerson. Edelstein's from The Good Wife. Michael Emerson is such a good actor because his delivery of all of these lines is so great. And I just love when he says, I shudder to think how this would affect your friend Dahlia. And she's like, what do you mean, my friend Dahlia? You can't, she's already been tried in this. You can't double jeopardy. It doesn't work unless there's why are you so involved in this? You must have something personal having to do with this case, and I'm going to find out. So maybe after like 3 episodes of saying that she's going to start going after Milton Crawford, maybe next episode she will actually go after Milton Crawford.
Maybe this will give her the motivation to actually figure it out. I wish we could. I want to spend a whole episode on the Milton Crawford stuff. I don't want the Milton Crawford stuff to be the B storyline that we barely talk about. I want a whole episode with the whole gang coming up with a plan to figure out how Milton Crawford did this. Like, I know we're stuck. Yeah. I know we're stuck in a formula. I know we're in a procedural show. But can we just get a whole episode devoted to how we're going to figure this out? Maybe give Kaya a part of the plan. Give Wagner. I want to see a heist. I want to see a plan to figure out how to get Milton Crawford to admit he did this or whatever they need to do with Milton Crawford.
Yeah, I agree. We can just have a very special episode that breaks all of the norms, and I think we'll all survive.
Yeah,
I don't think that would be. Yeah, but did I convince you with my 3 clues, Jason?
Yeah, the Kings are obsessed with you, Marissa. They know who you are. They really wanted to make an episode that would appeal to just you because you are the only person that had these 3 things happen to them in the world. French horn, Kaplan, Illinois.
Yep, that's it.
You are the only person that
never mind the fact that the University of Illinois has multiple campuses and he could have gone to any of them. Yeah. And I went to, like, it really, really narrows it down on me.
On
because
you. Yeah, you are the one.
Yeah.
You are the object of the King's eyes. So
yeah, thank you.
So that means we'll definitely be hearing from them soon, Kings. We want to hear from you.
Yeah. Yeah. The only people that I know that watch the show on regular other than our listeners are my parents. Uh-huh. And so I called my parents and I was like, did you see the episode? And they're like, huh? And I'm like, did you see all the call outs to me? And they're like, what?
They're like, huh?
I'm like, Ma.
They're like, sure, sweetie, sure. They got the phone. They have the phone. Marissa's delusional again.
Yeah.
Marissa's going. Okay. Marissa's doing her stuff again.
Marissa's been in her own apartment a little too long. We have to get her outside. But it was fun. It was just fun to, to see. It's fun when those things happen.
Yeah, it's fun.
Regardless,
you can see yourself in some of the show.
Or at least a little nod. Yeah,
a little nod. This was a fun episode. I enjoyed this episode. I enjoyed the Matthew Broderick of it all. He's so understated. He's a very like fun person to watch do their thing.
Yes, agreed. Yeah. So that's it for this one. Were we foiled again? We were foiled again into thinking they would tell us things or show us things, but
it
was still a good episode.
Good episode. Marissa, do you want to tell the good people in the Good Pod viewership out there where they can hear from you, where they find you on the socials, on any part of the internet?
These days, I am hanging out in email because who knows what's going on with social media. But you can find everything that I'm working on at itsmemarissag.com. Join my mailing list. I've been talking a lot about how to start a podcast. So if that's something that you're interested in doing, if we could do it,
Yeah,
you could do it.
sure.
And I think that like right now is a time for more voices to get out there. So if it's something that's even like on your mind, just sign up for my email list and I can help you at least start moving in that direction. Otherwise, I am rage posting on Instagram and also participating in limited discourse on Blue Sky. What about you, Jason?
You can find me on Blue Sky if you want. I'm a JR33D over there. I don't really post much, so go wild if you want to. If you want to just follow, if you want to just follow an account that doesn't say anything, that doesn't, it's not going to bother you. Go right ahead. Also, you can find me. You can find me podcasting in a number of places at the moment. Over on the Love at First Sight feed on the Rob Has Podcast Network, me and Asia Welch are covering a couple shows, covering Married at First Sight over on that feed. Joined every now and again by Mari Forth over there. You can also find me and Asia talking to Mary Kokowski about this current season of Love Is Blind. You know, if you're watching Love Is Blind, you have your feelings, your reservations about this season, but we make the experience all the more fun by talking about how good or how bad it is on any given season or every given drop. So come check that out. You can also see me and Marissa, the same person I'm on this
Yes,
podcast with, talking about
that's
Cobra
me.
Kai over on the We Know Scripted TV feed. If you've been a listener to our podcast for a while, you know that we came out with the second part of season 6 of Cobra Kai on our feed. We decided to go over to the We Know Scripted TV podcast to chop it up with Grace Leader about the very last drop of Cobra Kai episodes ever. It's a series finale. If you want to hear our thoughts about it, go over there. We had a great time talking to Grace about it. And don't forget, over on this side of the pond, we're also talking Good Wife on the other side of our
Mm-hmm.
podcast. So a lot of things going on right now in podcast land. So you got plenty to hear about from me if that's the type of thing you enjoy. But that's it for us this week, folks. Until next week, stay good.